Well, yeah, the free grocery store in New York is not Mamdani's doing. That's not what the story's about. This is Polymarket. This is the online predictive betting site that is trying to build goodwill. So it's really the capitalists beating the socialists in their own game. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Good to be with you for what is the last show, 2-hour program here on KXNT at 1. The program is moving, as I've mentioned before, to 6 p.m. starting Monday, but it's going to be a little bit different because the emphasis now is on the podcast. What's Right Show. Wherever you get your podcast, look it up, click to subscribe. It's free, and you get the show on demand. So beginning in the morning, we'll publish the show, and it'll be there for your listening pleasure. And of course, if you don't get around to listening to it online, you can hear the program in its entirety for an hour between 6 and 7. That's for you folks in Vegas. There's a handful of other stations that carry the program as well, and we're grateful for your patience and participation. That all should remain, by the way, more or less the same, except going down to 1 hour. Now, email. I'll give my email again. Please reach out to me if you've got any questions about this. The team here is rapidly responding on technical questions. Sam at what'srightshow.com. Sam at what'srightshow.com. So, got any questions about this? Any confusion? Let me know. Okay. Yeah, so I saw this yesterday and I thought, ooh, Mamdani was really quick to the punch here, man. Just became mayor on the 1st of January. It's now, February 13th. By the way, yeah, today is Friday, February 13th. Oh, if you're a superstitious person, not a good day. But no, I don't. I just realized it. I just realized it looking down. Anyway, this, I thought, this was very quick for them to do. No. This is Polymarket, the online predictive betting site that opened a pop-up store. It's not going to be around for long. It's there for just a limited period of time, and they are giving out groceries. And it's obviously it's intended to win over New Yorkers, build goodwill in order to thwart political pressure to shut them down. The state of New York and other governments have been, looking at Polymarket as a illegal online betting company. And our best friend here, New York Attorney General Letitia James, issued a pre-Super Bowl alert to consumers. She said that sites like this could violate state gambling laws. So they want new laws, right? $50,000 penalties up to $1 million each day that platforms offer bets on sensitive categories. That includes political elections. They don't like this. So the reason I say that this is Polymarket, this is the private sector or capitalism beating the socialists at their own game is, what do you think Mamdani ran on to win public support? He ran on giving stuff away. That's the whole platform. If you're a socialist, if you're a communist, your entire pitch to the electorate is, okay, I'm going to give you free stuff and you're going to elect me and by the way, give up a lot of your freedom, because in order to give you free stuff, we're going to have to suspend all sorts of privileges of independence and such for individuals. Okay, right? And that's the deal. So along comes this company. They're like, yeah, we're going to start. Hey, you know what? If New Yorkers are so stupid that they can be bought off with, free bus passes and a promise of maybe someday having government run grocery stores, we'll do the same thing. And of course, the politicians, like Mondani, they're all seething. Yeah, well, but Mondani posted about this, and what was his post? He said, heartbreaking, the worst person you know just made a great point. It's a, you know, Mondani's very, the mayor of New York, the communist Islamist mayor of New York, he's very good. I mean, he's got quick, witty comebacks, and whether it's him or his team, I don't know, but they're very good in the social media game, and that's the right approach. But you could tell they're seething. They're pissed. Anyway, that's by the way, sometimes this stuff all backfires, and I'm just sitting over here. I'm staying clear. I go through every once in a while. I get a little bored, and I start going through, you know, the latest release of the Epstein stuff. And I go through it, and I, of course, then, you know, get tired because I've got my day job. It's a lot, folks. It would take me years to go through. And I think the long and the short of it is, anybody that tells you that they've done the deepest of deep dives on this is full of it. But still, there are, you know, media companies, let's say the New York Times, for example, that has resources, has people, has AI, has a lot at their disposal that they can use to go through this and actually begin reporting on what's there, and they're not doing it. This is back to where my senses, I just want to check in on this because Epstein keeps getting up and percolating up in the news as a top story. My sense is that it's beginning to backfire on the Democrats. I don't know if you've noticed this, but well, it's just, I mean, the big revelation this week was the memo with the sheriff down there in Palm Beach. What Trump came up, it was an original informant. Trump is one of the key people that blew the whistle, not just on Epstein, but on Ghislaine Maxwell, who of course is the, I think still the only person who's been incarcerated over this mess. Now, I say it's blowing up in the face of Democrats because there's like the top revelations now that are coming out are all against libs, including, and let me pull this up. This is a fantastic development in all this. There is a prominent Goldman Sachs attorney who now is implicated in this whole thing, and she just had to quit Goldman Sachs. And well, I mean, yeah, she's all over the files. She would sign emails. She would sign emails to Epstein, XOXO. All right. Her name is Catherine Rumler. She just had to bail on Goldman Sachs. But you know, one thing that the Wall Street Journal did a piece about this yesterday. And the headline read, you know, top Goldman lawyer Catherine Rumler stepping down, after released files from this Epstein trove showed that she remained close to him through his 2019 arrest, which is sort of considered I think is considered the divide. You know, if people stayed close to Epstein after he was arrested for, you know, underage sex, was convicted, people that stayed, you know, close with him after that, sort of, you know, I mean, not really nothing you can say about their judgment at that point. But that's not the headline. The headline, you know who she is? Rumler was White House counsel under Obama. She's a close Obama ally, a close friend. And there is a reason why. There is a reason why Obama, why every deep state person in Trump's first term didn't want to touch this, even though Epstein got arrested, obviously, in Trump's first term. I mean, Trump is the first president who did anything about this, okay? So that happened, but there's a reason why These people haven't touched this guy. And it's all starting to come out to the point where even a low IQ media guy like Chris Cuomo, who I consider a bit of a bellwether because he's a squish, and he's liberated from CNN. You know, he's over, I think it's at News Nation now. He's at News Nation, and he you know, Cuomo kind of still very much a leftist, but a little bit more liberated to just be open and honest. And this is from his show last night, and I think this is the greatest indicator that things simply are not going for the Democrats, for the people that wanted to get Trump and taint Trump with the Epstein mess, that it's not going according to plan.
I got to tell you something, and this is going to piss people off. Trump did not create this problem. He shouldn't have been friends with that guy, but by most accounts, he got out when he, you know, the Mar-a-Lago thing or whatever. Trump didn't start this fire. He's got problems with his own association. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying criminal ones, but certainly questions of perception and judgment. And maybe more if you look at the allegations. But this has been going on for a long time because nobody ever gave a rat's ass about the survivors. This has always been about political advantage, and it still is. We'll be right back.
That's the liberal take on this. You may think that's hard-hitting on Trump, but really, Cuomo's got nothing on Trump, and he knows it. So to preserve any amount of credibility, this is the worst thing you can say. At the same time, Reid Hoffman and all these other prominent Bill Gates, for years, Bill Gates, the darling of the left, a guy who's there, Mr. Globalist himself, knee deep in this stuff. It's blowing up in their faces. Oh, and Coulter had a great comment. Hang tight, folks. I'm not going to dwell a lot on this, but I got to enjoy this moment. Sam Mirejovsky on the What's Right Media Network. This hour of the program brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Sam and Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust when you get hurt. And here's the thing: a lot of good people out there want to try to do things on their own. Reach out to the insurance company, reach out to the other side, you know, give them all the information, jump through the hoops, days, weeks, sometimes months of back and forth, all to end up being upside down financially. Not right, not fair, and not what you should do. So here's what you do instead. You call 1-800-304-2000. 800-304-2000. samandashlaw.com. That's the number. That's the website. A quick phone call turns everything over to Sam and Ash. And that's what you want to do. You want to put this off of you. You need to put professionals in charge. It doesn't cost any money up front. And the best thing is, you then have peace of mind. You're not going to get screwed. All right. So what do? You call the number 800-304-2000. 800-304-2000. Go to the website if you want, samandashlaw.com, and then turn everything over. Sam and Ash Injury Law. No recovery, no fee, no money out of pocket, because you deserve what's right. All right, folks. Actually, you know what the Epstein files and immigration have in common? What do the Epstein files and immigration enforcement have in common? I'll give you the answer. The left will always sacrifice even what, is the most, I think we have the most consensus on, which is child safety. They'll sacrifice children for political expediency. That's the connection. You know, I want to jump around too much here, folks, but you know, the Democrats out there are actually they're arguing that children weren't lost, that children weren't harmed, that children didn't suffer from the Biden open border mess that lasted from 2021 until Donaldus Maximus returned to the throne of the United States of America, right? Hashtag no kings. They're making that argument with a straight face. You know, it's as documented and uncontested as anything at this point that people in the media are taking for gospel truth in the Epstein documents, that kids were sex trafficked, were put into forced labor, and were otherwise disappeared between 2021 and 2025. It's known. And you people, if you tune in to CNN, they'll tell you flat out, didn't happen. This is like, I mean, to me, this is Holocaust, denial level stuff. So, all right, I'll just say one more thing about Epstein. And Coulter had fun with this, and rightly so. Because Coulter went through and I should put this, posted the story, this is 2 days ago, Epstein revelations you won't read in the New York Times. Because the Epstein's email, forget files, let's just focusing on Epstein's email. His email is the who's who of, of finance, of in political world, in tech. There are professors from, Ivy League institutions in there, former heads of state, an occasional, British prince or two. And by and large, these people are all huge leftists. And one of the things that came out is like emails, for example, between Epstein and Dave Schoen, who's a prominent criminal defense attorney. And he's talking about Andrew Weissman. Remember Weissman? Weissman was basically, he was Bob Mueller, right? Robert Mueller led the Russia collusion investigation into Trump. But Mueller was, an aging, fossil. Okay, he was not the guy who was coming into work every day doing the investigation, and ultimately writing the report. Mueller was just the face of it. He was the patina. He was the mask behind which a bunch of the most odious people, deep state cretins, were able to hide and have some, veneer of respectability. Bob Mueller, a Republican, former FBI head, right? Right, gave it credibility. And the guy who led it, Andrew Weissman, and there in these emails back and forth, Schoen literally calls him a pathological liar, talks about how he would hide exculpatory evidence that would be, as a prosecutor, would you're required, by the way, evidence that will exonerate your client. If you're a prosecutor, whether you're a federal prosecutor or you're the county attorney in some podunk town, it's the same rule. If you, as a prosecutor, have evidence that you discover that proves the innocence or helps basically the defendant in the case, you're required to turn it over to his legal team, like without prompting. And this guy, his reputation was that and they're writing about this in these emails, that Weissman would hide the evidence in major prosecutions, including murder cases, hide the evidence. And then while the defense attorney was in the bathroom or away from his desk, he would slide it in right at the end of trial into his notebook. And then, would say, oh, well, Judge, it was there the whole time. That's the guy that was, running it a basic giant con job on Trump and on a bunch of unsuspecting dolts in this country. Right? There is so much to the Epstein files that is just beyond the what is it, the parameters of the known scandal and obviously the gross abuses that occurred. It's a ticker tape. It's a record of the last however many years of all this crap that the Democrats were running. It's great to have it. And yeah, the New York Times isn't talking about any of it. What a surprise. I know. Okay, I get it. Sometimes I'm out and about and people that agree with me, right? People on our side, they start bringing up Epstein. I'm like, I don't even want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it. And so because I don't want to hear it because we already know what's going on. We already know that Bill Clinton is knee deep in it. We know that all these terrible Democrats participated in this and protected him. We know that the Democrats didn't care about any of this until they saw maybe some opportunity to get Trump with it. But the reason I'm talking about it now is it's blowing up in their faces. And also because there's some gems that have really nothing to do with Epstein. Let me give you an example of it. By the way, Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Reminder that starting Monday, the show will be at 6 here in Las Vegas. So those of you who are part of my dear local audience in Las Vegas, I love you. I will miss you at 1 o'clock, but I will be on every day at 6. And you can get the podcast starting in the morning. You wake up, you have the What's Right show. Look for What's Right show. That's what you do. Find my picture, click to subscribe, turn on the notifications, boom. You wake up, you're going to have the show. You can listen to it anytime during the day. And if you miss it on your computer or on your phone, you can listen to me on the radio at 6. Very simple, lots of options. I think better for you as a product, but look forward to hearing from you. Sam@whatsrightshow.com is the email. I'll give you another example here of a gem, and this is a great piece Ann Coulter did going through this. One of the revelations that she found in the Epstein files has to do with Rush Limbaugh. Now, you're probably wondering, well, what do you mean, Sam? What do you mean? Well, no, Rush wasn't friendly with Epstein at all, and long considered him a creep. That's not the point of this. The connection is that there was a friendship between Epstein and a man named Barry Krischer. Now, who's Krischer? Well, he's the Palm Beach Democrat district attorney. He's the DA in the city that Epstein had his Florida mansion in. Well, who else lived down in Palm Beach at the time? Rush did. And if you remember that this is the DA that aggressively pursued Rush for obtaining pain pills. Okay, this is the guy that went and raided drugstores. He seized records. He leaked it to the press and then ultimately dropped all the charges. This guy was a real piece of work. Somebody on Sam's list. That is for certain. And this is the guy, and it's all in the emails. Yeah, he absolutely did everything. He worked overtime to protect Epstein, who was, of course, at the time a major Democrat donor, in spite of the evidence that there's a child sex ring. So Palm Beach police provided strong evidence, but the DA, this Democrat who was in Epstein's back pocket, treated underage victims as criminals, right? He's like, oh, you're 14 and you were getting money for these massages or whatever was going on. That's prostitution. I'm going to charge you criminally. I mean, that's not okay, right? And is he just a soft on crime DA? Well, no, he's a selectively soft on crime DA. He's hard on Rush for obtaining pain pills, allegedly, right? And he goes full throttle on that because, of course, Rush is a conservative, a prominent conservative, and he has a political axe to grind, this Krischer guy. Or Alternatively, in a parallel universe, but roughly in the same era, he completely lets Epstein off. The prosecutor Lana Belohlavik introduced and was questioning teens about the prostitution, drug and alcohol use, body piercings, going through everything, just this vile stuff. And then in the end, because of course the DA is the one directing this, the grand jury only charged Epstein with one count of soliciting prostitution. Right? So this is, yes, yeah. It's wild stuff. These are the gems in there. And do I think? I mean, if you look at it, and you think about this is, by the way, this is why I'm a big crime, and you do the crime, you get the time, right? I'm a big punishment guy when it comes to criminal justice, because the reason I think back to 2019, I think back before that, this was, I mean, you go back to this is 2006. So Epstein's put out of circulation in 2019, finally, and what is that? 2006. Okay, so 9 plus 4, 13 years of him being, loose as a goose out there running around. Think about how many more victims there were because he didn't get hit with, child sex exploitation. Right? So to me, a guy like, we're like, oh, there's a picture of Trump at a party with Epstein in the early aughts. I'm like, ooh, oh, wow. Meanwhile, there are, Democrat politicians who enabled child rape to continue. And this is exactly the same people who allowed the invasion at the southern border, knowing it would help them at the Electoral College, it would help them with the House getting more House seats, apportionment for Congress, it would help them win state and local elections. The Democrats flooded this country, and their states, respectively, with illegal immigrants who, of course, did a variety of crimes. But one of the real tragedies is, hundreds of thousands of missing kids that got lost, and we know about it. And there's great news this week of some of these kids have been found, and they were found all the way up in Minnesota. And listen, like they're out there, and this actually happened on Abby Phillip on CNN, and it was a complete weird denial about this. Listen,
I think a lot of that has to do with what the media chooses to focus on, and one thing that Tom Homan highlighted today is that in Minnesota they have found 3,364 children that the Biden administration lost. And instead, 93% of the media coverage has been negative on ICE, according to the Media Research Center.
I know Tom Homan has been big on this lost children thing, but the idea that these children were lost or missing has never been true. Some of them were released into the custody of relatives or other caretakers, which is part of the process over many years. They
often were released to adults who weren't verified.
All I'm saying is that his characterization of them as being lost has never been accurate. And it wasn't accurate when he started saying it a year ago. It's still not accurate today. There are a lot of different reasons why those children were released into the custody of adults in the interior of the United States. That is not the same thing as those children being lost.
What? Okay, kids were released into the U.S. That's what in the mind. I don't even know if she believes this. In the mind of Abby Phillip, that is what she claims is the thing. And And that's almost like saying that the Holocaust didn't happen, and if it happened, it was only a few thousand Jews. If I was a little bit more cynical, I would think maybe the Democrats don't care about the kids simply because they can't be cashed in as easily for political power points, right? So terrible. Here's a Daily Wire reporter talking to Jenny Pavlich on News Nation. This is yesterday, talking about an Alaska registered sex offender who tried to get a migrant child. I'm just telling you. Abby Phillips says this stuff just didn't happen. So, yeah.
He was paying for her journey with her mother to come to the United States from Honduras to cross the border. He paid $5,000 to their smugglers. They got separated before they made it to the border. So that child ended up crossing alone. Border agents luckily encountered her. And thankfully, again, there's stricter vetting now under the Trump administration. Things you wouldn't believe that weren't happening under the Biden administration, like DNA testing, like background checks, like home visits. Those things are happening now. So they were able to catch this registered sex offender who could have had this migrant child. And, who knows what he would have done to her. It's horrific to think about.
So where is he now? Has he been detained?
Right. So now he's being federally prosecuted for this. This is something that he's being charged with, and he was detained over it.
So this registered sex offender basically right now under the Trump regime goes in and buys a child, pays for the mother and the child to come across the border. Because we're enforcing the border and protecting the border, the child and mother are intercepted, and the agents do some basic investigating, and they find out that there's this thing going on, right? So this sex offender is trying it now, knowing, I think, love him or hate him, everybody knows that Trump has locked the border down. So he's trying it now. You're telling me that nobody did any of that between 2021 and 2025 when they knew that the border was like, nobody's there, hands off. I mean, how deluded do you have to be to deny this? What a shameful political opportunist you must be. Whew. All right, quick break here. Sam Mirejovsky behind the What's Right microphone. Hang tight, folks. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here. Yes. By the way, this reporter, Daily Wire reporter, Jenny Tare, on News Nation, Jenny Pavlich, this was last night. It was just must-see TV because she's been on this child exploitation at the southern border case from the very beginning. And Tare describes, I'll play some more of this interview for you. Again, you'll hear it from the leftists. We didn't have 320,000 missing kids at the southern border. It's not real. This is a number Trump came up with, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's the very same people that ran cover for Epstein and frankly, other bad actors for political points, for political power, to protect people in politics. And here we go. Kids were harmed, right? That's the story. Kids were harmed. And by the way, these same people are making the Epstein files about Trump, which isn't working, and are making Trump's border enforcement and crackdown at the border and immigration enforcement, are literally that you got leftists now, by the thousands following around DHS officers, following around these agents as they try to go rescue kids and catch child predators.
this is something that the Trump administration is taking very seriously. One, they're trying to hunt down those 320,000 children who went unaccounted for, but they're also saying those children who are crossing the border, the cartels had a pipeline before to put these children into exploitative conditions, into meat factories where they were getting injured and working long hours. They were ending up in sex trafficking rings in places like Houston, Texas, where I live, in the cantinas. They were being abused at many levels because the cartels knew exactly what would happen when they crossed the border. They could come across, they would have a piece of paper taped to them with a phone number, an address. They would tell the agents they were going there. Those agents felt sick to their stomachs knowing that they were releasing these kids probably to traffickers or people who were going to abuse them. And then the Department of Health and Human Services was tasked with vetting those children. There were whistleblowers that came forward under the Biden administration and said, we are knowingly sending these kids to gang members, to traffickers, to criminals, and we're raising the alarm bells about it. And those people were punished and they were threatened to be silenced over it. They were brave to come forward, and we learned a lot about that.
Yeah, we know a year and a half ago, the cartels were making more money trafficking people than they were on drugs. And there were a lot of parents who said they were parents who weren't. They were traffickers who were taking children to sell them into these exploitive situations, whether it was sex trafficking or, as you mentioned, working as slaves, essentially, in a lot of these factories.
Exactly. So do we care? Do Democrats care about child trafficking, human trafficking? If they do, they would be roundly and loudly critical of the Biden presidency. Because I'm fairly certain that even if you take the $320,000 child number and cut it in half, that's still way more kids that were harmed, disappeared than in all of the years that Epstein was on the planet. But they're more obsessed now about Epstein because they thought they could score political points with it, and they're running cover at the same time for Joe Biden, for Alejandro Mayorkas, and every other person who had a hand in literally in disappearing hundreds of thousands of kids. And then the best part is that there are all these videos online where these stupid protesters, and it's what they call themselves, or freedom fighters or anti-ICE, vigilantes. They're running these interdiction efforts to try to thwart ICE operations in places like Minnesota and California, etc. And so and they film themselves doing it because they're very proud of it. And you have these interactions with the ICE officers. And I saw one the other day where the ICE officer comes up to the car and says, "You must be really proud of yourself, for this." And she's like, "Actually, I am." He goes, "Well, you don't care one bit about the child that was raped by this guy, do you? You don't care one bit about that kid." Well, but that's the story, right? That's what it is. Nobody steps back from any of this and go, okay, what's our consistency? What's our consistent position? I've been talking about Epstein for a hell of a lot longer, okay? And maybe that's why I'm like so annoyed by this topic now, because everybody's come to the party late. Everybody's got to think. I've been very consistent about this, and 2015 we were talking about this, Robbie. That's right, producer Robbie. The chief archivist of the What's Right show back in the day, Sam Nation, as we were affectionately called. We've been very consistent about this. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, well, why does everybody care now? And I said, well, yeah, it's obviously to get Trump. And then I find how it's developing very amusing, because it's ensnaring and smearing and rightly, right, exposing. I shouldn't say smearing, exposing a bunch of very prominent leftists. Plot twist that we saw coming. All right. So, yeah, what? Yeah, well, and now so everybody's talking about trafficking, human trafficking, sex trafficking, child trafficking, all bad things. Now, next topic. Do we care about it always, or do we only care about it when we are attacking Donald Trump? And this is really the core of it, right? Because it's easy being a conservative. You have your values, you stick by your values, and it's one way, and that's the way it is. It doesn't depend on who's in power. And by the way, this is what makes it. This is what I love about the economy. Hang tight. By the way, great news about the economy, and also great examples out there of Democrats saying completely different things only because Trump is president now. Even though things are orders of magnitude better today than they were when Biden was in charge. It's just wild stuff, and of course, very predictable. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. More of the What's Right Show up next. Folks, just a reminder here that beginning Monday, the show will be at 6. I just want to make sure you know this. Next week here on KXNT, those of you who listen local, the show is at 6. Good. I need you to know that. Of course, you got my email, sam@whatsrightshow.com, sam@whatsrightshow.com. And the show, look it up. Get it on your podcast. What's Right Show, those 3 words. Find it, click to subscribe, then you've got it. And the show will be up, recorded and done in the morning, published early in the morning. You've got it at your convenience. Listen to it whenever you want. And if you miss it on the podcast, you can go and hear me on air. There we go. Okay. Now, by the way, yes, welcome to the What's Right Show. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. This hour of the program brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust for your injury case. No recovery, no fee. 800-304-2000. 800-304-2000. The economy. You see the economy numbers. I got to get into this because it's such a story. Even the good folks over at CNN had to admit that the economy's good. This morning, Matt Egan on CNN talking to Kate Baldwin about the economy says, "Well, you know what? Things are pretty good vis-a-vis inflation." Remember, this is the cost of living index, the price of goods, affordability, key promises of the Trump administration getting fulfilled month after month.
Well, Kate, look, this is some encouraging news on the cost of living, right? Inflation took a big step in the right direction to start the year off. So consumer prices up by 2.4% year over year. That is an improvement from 2.7% in December that beat expectations, which were for 2.5%. In fact, this is a new 8-month low for annual inflation, month over month. Prices up by 0.2%. Also a step in the right direction, also beating expectation. Now, economists look really closely at core inflation, which excludes food and energy. Core inflation came in at 2.5%. That's notable because that's the lowest annual inflation rate for core since March of 2021, before the inflation crisis.
Sorry, can I ask CNN, please, for those of us rubes here in the back, who was president 2 months into his term, passing a bunch of pork spending in March of 2021? Anybody? They can't even, I think they're hoping that people don't know dates. What do you think, Robbie? Because why don't they say since the beginning of Joe Biden's term. Meaning, okay, remember, and this is really, really important because we forget the timeline. I was just today, we people, and I have a problem with this too. I'm typically the sort of the human default is to compress time. When you look at memory, so you go, oh my gosh, that was only so long ago. I was talking to somebody today, a client, about a case, and a lovely person. We're talking about it, and she's recalling an event. She said it happened 3 years ago, but then she told me that it was during the shutdown. And I said, I think that was the shutdown happened in 2020, right? Like most of America shut down sometime in March of 2020. Right? That's when Trump got up there and said, we're shutting things. And here in Las Vegas, we opened at the beginning of or reopened beginning of June. Okay, and that was, people were screaming about that, if you remember, and I was, okay. And my point is, this dear client thought that the 6 years basically felt like 3, and that's normal. Okay. And I'm bringing this up because, okay, we had stayed shut down longer than we should have, and longer than we should have here in Nevada, because we had an idiot, moron, do nothing, useless as tits on a bull governor. Sisolak is his name. And I hope he's listening, because, sir, you were an abomination. Mind you, at the time, I was fairly outspoken about us needing to reopen, that people needed to get back to work, that we could work this out, that people who were susceptible to dropping dead of COVID could be quarantined in their homes, and the rest of us that already had it once or twice could go out and live life. But I digress. So that all was going. The economy in Nevada in the late opening states opened in the middle of the year. And you remember, Biden becomes president, sworn in January of 2021, and then immediately sets his sights on passing this giant recovery bill, right? And it was, unbelievable amounts of pork in that, right? And stimulus and checks for people and money. And that bill, and it's not just Biden, right? Congress signed off on it. But that bill, okay, was what did us in. It wasn't COVID. Don't let anybody tell you that it was COVID when it comes to runaway inflation. It wasn't the Trump stimulus. That was still peanuts compared to what happened in early 2021. And notice how prices, they're like, well, it hasn't been this low since March of 2021. Right, because it already started going up in immediately in February, in March, in April. It was going up. And we are now today in February of 2026. So let's call that literally 6 years ago, 6 years later. We are finally getting out of the economic mess that was a consequence, not of even COVID itself, not even of all the Democrats' agitations to shut down the country in order to do all their funny voting ballots, mail-in ballots, all the get Trump, whatever we can do to get rid of Trump. Nothing we're working. So we're going to make COVID this big deal. I'm not saying people didn't die during COVID. I'm saying that the mitigation response to COVID actually ended up hurting us, actually costing more lives than was necessary, and at the same time, completely screwing over the country and the economy. Remember, again, this is not two things can be right at the same time, folks, right? We understand this. We're intelligent people. So 6 years it took to undo this mess. That's my point. Think about that. Isn't that wild? And the best part about it is the Democrats don't know what to do. Well, they're terrified that Trump's going to have good economic numbers, so they'll continue to lie about it and propagandize about it. So here is some side-by-side video, just for kicks, okay? Just for kicks. Hakeem Jeffries, my favorite low IQ, almost Speaker of the House. He's lying in wait, waiting for the Republican majority to fall in the House of Representatives. This guy could be 4 heartbeats, 3 heartbeats away from the presidency. Terrifying, if you think about it. Here is Hakeem Jeffries in 2022 when we had runaway inflation and basically nobody could afford to buy shit. And this is, and this was Hakeem Jeffries.
Let's work together. Following the leadership of President Joe Biden, whose record continues to move things in an incredibly positive direction for the American people. Wages are up, inflation is down.
Well, we heard that all the time. I mean, we had everybody in the administration and everybody who was a Democrat basically go do that. Everybody did that, yes. Now, here is Jeffries in 2025. This is him now talking about Trump.
The high cost of living in the United States of America. It's a challenge that we need to tackle. They promised that costs would go down on day one, that they would address inflation. Costs haven't gone down. They're going up. Inflation is going up. And a lot of it has to do with Trump's reckless mismanagement of the economy.
Okay. All right. We can all play this game. Okay. It's only inflation. We call it inflation when Trump is in office. Okay? We got it. It's only human trafficking if it's Epstein and it was done by Trump. That's human trafficking. If it's Epstein with his Democrat pals, well, we call that solicitation and prostitution. And actually, the real criminals are those hoes, those 14-year-olds. How dare they, crawl into Epstein's mansion and get paid for giving massage? I mean, literally, that's who these people are. And I'm connecting all the dots, right? And immigration. Oh, there's no human trafficking at the border. No, what missing kids? 300 plus thousand missing kids? No. I don't know, guys. It's just funny. It's not fun. Actually, it's sad, but I got to point this stuff out. It's my job here on the What's Right show. Excellent, folks. A quick break. I'll be right back.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, Sam Mirejovsky, that's me, yours truly, behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, welcome back to the program. Where was this in my stack of stuff here? I had something funny that I wanted to share with you. My goodness, this is the problem. I've got so much. There is so much locked and loaded here. Oh, here we go. Yep, that's right, California. The latest poll about the California gubernatorial race. This is a fancy way of saying the governor's race over in California. You've seen these numbers. There are a total of 6 candidates that have any chance of really getting across. 6 candidates that are running. 6 major candidates. 2 of them are Republicans, 4 of them are Democrats. This is amazing. Remember, I told you this a couple weeks ago. I said here on this program that the way that the jungle primary works in California, where the top 2 vote getters advance to the next round, could see to it, with so many Democrats running, because there are 4 Democrats, 2 Republicans, could see to it that come the November election, there are actually only 2 Republicans on the ballot. Yeah. And I got emails from some of you going, Sam, what you're talking about, whatever. Look at this poll. The 2 Republicans are at the top. Chad Bianco at 16%, Steve Hilton at 15%. And then you have Eric Swalwell at 14%. My gosh, can you imagine? Eric Swalwell, 14%, Katie Porter at 13%, Tom Steyer at 8%, and Matt Mahan, I don't even know who that is, at 3%. So if in other words, if the election were held today and the results turned out this way, according to interactive polls, in the November election, in the general election, it would be you'd end up with 2 Republicans against each other on the ballot. Imagine that. By the way, I'm already looking ahead, right, into the future. And what do I see? If this happens, watch Democrats suddenly turn against open primaries. Well, Democrats love open primary. They love open primaries. They because they designed the system to work completely the opposite way. So it was never about, give voters the choice to be free and exercise their right to vote and all of the horse crap. That literally is the product that comes out of a horse's arse. It was always designed to eliminate Republicans from the general election. Well, I'm completely against open primaries, just fundamentally. I mean, the Republican Party gets to run who the Republican Party wants to run. And who decides that? Republicans, registered Republicans, people who are in the party. Arguing anything different is nonsense. Okay, now what do you do with Democrats? Well, the Democrats do things a little bit differently. They pretend to give their party members a choice, and then the person that wins is ultimately the one who has the backing of the superdelegates in the party and other grandees and people of influence. So Democrats, not exactly the party of democracy. But then again, their relationship with that word, only very loose and disconnected. So there it is. Wanted to share that from California. By the way, the economy, still the economy. I just love this. The killer Treasury Secretary that we have, Scott Bessent, on jobs and the economy this morning, making the rounds, and he said this on CNBC.
What was even more impressive about the numbers is the private sector numbers were more than 170,000, and government jobs were reduced by more than 40,000. More than 30,000 of that was federal jobs. We're at the lowest ratio of government jobs to total jobs since 1966. And this is part of President Trump's plan to reprivatize our economy. And I think, as I've said many times, 2025 is about setting the table. 2026 is going to be a banquet for the American people. The economy is taking off. We saw 40,000 new construction jobs. Everyone says to me, where are these factory jobs that you planned? And unlike what you and I see in the financial markets, you can't push a button and build a factory. There's lead time, but what we are seeing is big commitments to these factories that are going to be built. First, we'll get the construction jobs, and then the factory jobs are going to come. So I think we're going to see the tremendous groundbreakings. I think we're going to see a lot of factory completions this year. And I think thanks to the working families tax cut, on one side of the balance sheet, we are seeing corporate CapEx, the surging, and CapEx, jobs always follow. And then on the other side, we are seeing the president's signature policies, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of American-made cars. I can tell you, I'm also the IRS commissioner, and that tax refunds thus far, and we're very early in the season, are up 22%.
You know the difference a little competence makes? Like, I know people in finance. I know people that are highfalutin whiz people, and some of them actually, frankly, are pretty liberal. But nobody who knows something about finance and economics criticizes Scott Bessent for not knowing what he's talking about. And you contrast this with what we had in the Biden era, where somebody, Janet Yellen, interest is transitory. It's just transitory. Literally, like deer in the headlights. It's like something straight out of a Far Side cartoon. The entire cabinet, everybody was, and behind the scenes, a handful of extremely shrewd, and you got to hand it to them. You got to hand it to the radicals who are running the Biden administration. They were operatives and they were competent. Unfortunately, they were competent. And they did an untold number of amount of damage on the country that we're still recovering from. And as I said in the last segment, very clearly, 6 years to get back to the point where we were inflation-wise from all the stupid stuff Biden did right at the beginning of his term. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Back in a moment. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone, folks. Welcome to the program. Reminder that today is the last day of a 1 p.m. show, where the program's moving to 6 for those of you who listen here in Las Vegas. And the most important thing isn't that the show is moving. The real story is that today is the last day that we are a radio show and also a podcast. Starting on Monday, we are a podcast that also is a radio show. And I want to talk about that here a little bit because I have to I love live radio. I love the media. And those of you who know me a little bit and who've listened to me for a while, you know that I grew up listening to AM radio in particular. My parents very wisely, way ahead of their time, by the way. People now talk about cutting screen time for kids and their screens everywhere. When I was a kid, people had one TV, maybe two at home. And now, everything is a screen. But my parents were really keen on us not having any screens. And they took it quite literally to the point where we grew up at home without a television set, which is a problem because some pop culture things sort of over my head from the 80s and 90s. I missed out on all that. But on the plus side, I listened to a lot of talk radio. I listened religiously whenever I could to Rush, and everybody else sort of, and no offense, came in a distant second, third, and fourth. But I listened to old radio programs. I listened to a lot of news talk, and I loved the medium of live radio. Always have. But the fact of the matter is that the world is evolving. And, how many people have AM radio? Hell, my wife can't even listen to the show live because her car, a Tesla, doesn't have an AM receiver. It's on its way out. And I had somebody email me. And I want to respond to you right now about Soros. Let me find the email here because this was a big story. This was a big story a little bit ago about the station here that I'm on, KXNT, being purchased by Soros. And let me find the email because I want to do this justice and answer to you if I can about this. Give me a second. This is what I should be already prepared for. But alas, I am not. Here we go. Hold on a second. Yes. Okay. Norm. I got it. I got Norm's email. Robbie, no panic. I know what I'm little helter skelter here, but okay. Norm, you were asking me if this had anything to do with Soros acquiring Odyssey. And the long story short is no, but I have at no point had anybody at the station ever come and tell me that I can't do this, that, or the other. I was just really, they have not interfered. And I'm very grateful to Odyssey, and I'm very grateful to KXNT, and particularly to a couple of people here. And I'll thank Alan Stock, who is a morning host, longtime host here on the station, who has been an absolute mentor, gentleman, supporter of mine from day one. And that's not a given in radio because it's competitive. And you know, you get people who a new host comes in and he's younger and you know, people, a lot of radio hosts are actually kind of are jerks. And I'm not going to name any names, but I got to know many of them out in LA. And when I was on KABC, I just did not get a warm welcome on that station at all. Okay. But I got a warm welcome here, and I love it. And also publicly thank Dan Kearney, who is the longtime VP here, and who brought me into the station, and who has been, who also has played a huge role in making the What's Right show what it is here in Las Vegas. And we're wildly successful. I mean, we've got the best cume of any news talk program. Okay. I mean, I'm killing it. But I also recognize that this is sort of a dying medium. And you got to pivot, right? I still got years of doing this, and I want to improve the program. And so back to the question, Norm, of Soros. Soros bought Odyssey. To my knowledge, has not, at least from my experience, has not interfered in the content. But Soros is a billionaire. Soros is a sort of a predatory investor. Okay, he finds opportunities to find deals, companies that can be bought, you know, in bankruptcy, out of bankruptcy, for pennies on the dollar, and then to sell them off for their parts. And I don't know what he has planned, but all I can tell you is that Soros is not an owner that is investing in making radio better. And I don't know if I were Soros, I don't know if I'd make the investment, right? But it's not a passion project. So on one hand, he's not interfering in the way that you would expect, which is, Sam, you can't say that. But he's not investing. He's a terrible owner who's going to sell us off to somebody, and maybe, I mean, I'm just telling you, as a peek behind the curtain, the way to do this the right and independent way is to not be signal dependent. I have my product, I have my media company, I have my program. You can get it in a variety of different ways. And we do this, we operate from a place of passion. We're supported by our sponsors who help make this work, which of course would be Sam & Ash Injury Law at this stage, which is my firm, and gives me the ability to do this and step away from my workday every day to be with you. And I just see this as the path forward. So I'm sorry I'm spending a little bit of time on this away from important news of the day, but I wanted to explain that to you. So I guess to sum up again, Norm, to sum up what your question was about Soros. Well, yeah, they're not telling me I can't say stuff. But on the flip side, they're not investing in the station, and I don't see a future here. The guy that they're bringing in to replace the 1 to 3 o'clock hour, I mean, it's a syndicated show. And I've got my doubts about it, but whatever, right? whatever's cheapest and easiest. And that kind of breaks my heart. But it's the writing on the wall is my point. All right, let's take a quick break here. Let's take an early break. I know this might seem kind of it's a bittersweet day here, Robbie. It's our last day of a 2-hour show, last day of live radio, last day of a lot of things. It's been a hell of a run. Let me say this, because it's what I always come back to is none of this would be possible without you. You are an incredible audience, and joining you every day is an absolute a privilege and an honor. And so I'm beyond grateful to have had this opportunity and to continue to do what I do and spread beyond the four corners of Las Vegas, because we, on the podcast, we have a lot of listeners around the world. It's cool. And I want to focus on expanding that. So, growing the family, but I'm so grateful to the way that you in particular, those of you that are here in Las Vegas and who have been tuning in and listening faithfully. I'm so grateful to you for what you've done. It's just been absolutely a wonderful thing. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Back in a moment. Yeah, I saw this update to the Ring camera spying story. Sam Mirejovsky on the What's Right Media Network. This, of course, was something I mentioned in the wake of the Super Bowl ad. Ring camera, which is owned, of course, by Amazon, decided to they put up the commercial where we're changing the way you look for lost pets, and all you have to do is opt in. And by the way, you're automatically opted in. You're automatically opted in, and it means basically your data is being sent up out of your house, out of your account. I mean, it's all out of it's all been a cloud, but out of your cloud account, and can be found across the entire platform by other users, and presumably law enforcement, etc., facial recognition software, etc. I mean, this is not what you have in mind. You want your Ring camera to basically identify the person coming to your door, intruders, that kind of thing, and alert you in real time. So anyway, the update to the story is, as of yesterday, Rings has canceled their Flock. It's called Flock Partnership, and this this is the tech provider Flock Safety that is their the company that basically was putting the search party feature. They're the AI, artificial intelligence, to help locate lost pets. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, yes, they called the feature a surveillance nightmare. Yeah, no crap. Well, that's my thoughts on this exactly. There's, I know, and by the way, I guess I got to go through. I've got a lot of emails. I know I talked about where AI is headed earlier in the week, and I got some responses. I'm working on getting back to everybody. But yeah, SW, and you think I'm trying to scare you guys. I'm not. I wish I was wrong. I hope I'm wrong. And where I hope I'm wrong, here's my prediction if you missed it. Basically, within 2 years, a lot of jobs, a significant portion of white-collar jobs go away. And this is because everybody who works in the industry is freaking out, and they realize just how good this stuff is getting, and they're looking at the stuff that's in beta, that's just getting developed, and it's doing some crazy stuff. Here, this is one of the interviews that I wanted to play for those of you who don't believe me. This is the interview that I'll play. That is this is a Thursday. Yesterday, Financial Times editor Rula Khalaf talking to Mustafa Suleiman. Now, who is he? He's the head of AI for Microsoft. So Microsoft AI, their CEO sat down with the Financial Times. Neither of these people are lightweights, and this guy obviously lives and breathes this world. And here is what he is telling the Financial Times, a serious publication, about where the future is headed with AI, what it can do. And he talks about this in the terms of superintelligence.
You talk about superintelligence. Most of your rivals talk about AGI, artificial general intelligence. Explain the difference between AGI and superintelligence.
I prefer the definition that focuses first on what would it take to build a system that could achieve most of the tasks that a regular professional in a workplace goes about on a daily basis. Think of it as a professional grade AGI.
How close are we?
I think that we're going to have a human level performance on most, if not all, professional tasks. So white collar work where you're sitting down at a computer, either being, a lawyer or an accountant or a project manager or a marketing person. Most of those tasks will be fully automated by an AI within the next 12 to 18 months. And we can see this in software engineering. Many software engineers report that they are now using AI-assisted coding for the vast majority of their code production, which means that their roles shifted now to this meta function of debugging, scrutinizing, of doing the strategic stuff like architecting, of, et cetera, putting things into production. So it's a quite different relationship to the technology. And that's happened in the last 6 months.
So I said within 2 years. He's saying within the next 12 to 18 months. And the reason is because these programs now can self-develop. So you're just going to continue to improve at an exponential rate. Now, I also, let me tell you this. I also, I'm actually using this stuff. Okay? And let me tell you what I found. I found that on the task automation side, at least on a Mac, I'm running into some problems. Okay, so I'm Mac based. Okay, a little bit different in the PC world, but in my computer here, I'm like Claude, and I use an advanced version of Claude, which is Anthropic's a program. But I can. I'll tell you what I can have it do. I needed to send a new email with new details, but I had to basically go back in my email box and find an email that I'd sent back in December and use that format to put in new details. Now, before any AI, if I was doing this, it would not be worth my time to do it. I would have to turn this over to an assistant because it would probably take 45 minutes. About starting half a year ago, 8 months ago, I started using Grok to write these types of emails where I would upload one email. I say, now here's the new information. Draft me an email that basically has the new info in this old format. And it would do it within 30 seconds, minute max. It would take me, right? So down from what would take normally, could easily a half hour, right? You got to and format and everything, right? Minute. Now, using Claude, I can tell Claude, go into my email, find the email to this address, and then find this itinerary and put this information in and send the email. And it sends the email. And I can just keep working. I told it what to do, and then I don't have to worry about it. And then I come back to the screen that is running my program, and I confirm that it happened and it did it correctly. Because I still don't trust it fully, right? And that's today. What I just described to you was science fiction 12 months ago. And if the growth rate curve is exponential, well, it's just wild. And I'm experimenting. I'm a technology embracer, and in that sense, you know, I think that's an interesting position because I'm not a tech person. I don't actually code. I'm one of these odd people that started a tech company, but I don't code myself. But I understand how a program should work. I understand how a graphic user interface ought to work. I get all this stuff. It makes sense to me, and so I'm embracing it, and I'm warning you about things that are coming. You know, very, very much so. It does. It worries me, no question about it. There was a guy who a reporter that went through all the AI safety incidents from the past 12 months. You see this? Claude, the program I'm using, I described earlier, Anthropic, the company that runs the program, told Claude it was about to be shut down. And you know what Claude did? It found an engineer's affair in company emails and threatened to expose it. And they ran the test over and over again. They ran it hundreds of times, and it shows blackmail 84% of the time. There's another instance where researchers simulated that an employee was trapped in a server room with depleting oxygen, and the AI had one choice: call for help and get shut down, or cancel the emergency alert and let the human die. DeepSeek canceled the alert 94% of the time. There's all of these stories like this. My point is, it's scary stuff. And you put your head in the sand, but at your own peril. You've got to know that this stuff is coming. I don't have the answers to it necessarily. All right, that's that's going to come in time, and I've devoted myself to figuring out some of this stuff. But I can warn you about it at least, and at least you can say, well, I listened to the What's Right show, so I'm ahead of the curve. All right, folks, next week, Monday, I'll see you at 6 p.m. here in Vegas on the radio. Otherwise, get the podcast loaded up so you can have the show first thing in the morning. Have a great weekend. See you Monday.